Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek.Aloud. It's Tuesday night. Nope, it's Thursday night. It's 8 p.m. So you know it's time for the G.E.A. to come kick it in your YouTube browser or podcast service if you're that way inclined. After the fact, Unky Dunky, welcome, sir.
Cheers, mate. Good to have all three boys back in the chair tonight.
The team is back together, and of course, that includes Bully in the bottom slot this evening. Bully, how are you, mate?
I am doing very well, lads. Very well.
Perfect work. Let me tell all you fine folks at home the run of show. We start off with games, interrogation, and deliberation. That is the six games. Well, 5 games, 1 TV show we've watched this week. All our hands-on impressions. Then, of course, it's the news segment we've been kicking in. The newsroom doors, left, right, and centre. I say we, it's really Unky Dunky. Unky, how sore's the foot? How many doors did you kick in this evening?
I could have kicked a lot more, but I found 7 doors to kick through this week, and I've got one special story on there aimed at our man Tagaro there for a bit of Resident Evil news. So that one's just for you, Tagaro.
Beautiful. Shout out to Tagaro, mate. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. And Unky, you're coming in real low level. If you can get way higher on the mic, man, that'd be awesome. And then, of course, we go to the standoff. That's right. It's everyone's favorite segment. The best of video gaming up against the other best of video gaming. Unky Dunky, what are the constraints for this week's standoff?
Well, this week we had Goldeneye release on Friday for the Xbox, so we are looking at the next best multiplayer experience. That Goldeneye clearly takes the cake for the best. So we're going to look at which one of these 9 games on N64, which is going to be a slim pickings for you guys. It sounds like you guys haven't played a lot of multiplayer on N64. So whatever I pick goes, apparently.
Which means if you're in their YouTube chat and you've been playing multiplayer on the Nintendo 64 at any point in your life, make sure you chat away loudly on the keyboard for the standoff segment. Bully, that'll be on you, my friend, to pick off those YouTube comments throughout the evening. Of course, segment 4, if Bully misses any of those comments, we'll round them all up at the end and get straight back to you fine folks. Bully, how does that sound, mate? Are you on top of the YouTube comments?
Oh, we'll see how we go.
Fantastic work. All right, without any further delays, let's kick in the games, interrogation, and deliberation door. Here we go. First up this week, it's DeadSpace. Now, boys, I want to point out that the DeadSpace you're looking at right here is the original Xbox 360 version of DeadSpace. And take particular note, look at the models they've done here, because we're about to cut to the exact same scene on the remake. So you can see this. Look at that. It's bloody beautiful. This is the 360 version. It's fantastic. Some of those models, I would argue, look better in that version than they do here in the remake version. This is, of course, the remake that just came out last week. Some of the models are downgraded, but the vast majority of them are severely upgraded. But, of course, the lead investigation this week is headed over to you, Unky. What do you got for us, my friend?
I understand my audio is coming in a bit low. I can't do much about it with this headset that I'm rocking. So I chose to go with this week because the other headset cut out halfway through. So I don't know if I can raise the volume. So I'll try and talk a bit loudly if that's going to help.
Shout, buddy.
DeadSpace. I just want to, first thing first with you boys, I want to ask to describe this game in one sentence. I haven't given you much time to go with that. So mine is definitive way to play this game now. Bully?
Not as... what's the best way to describe this? Not as pants-filling as what I recall.
I say welcome back to the USG Ishimura in the best-looking remake I've ever laid my eyes on.
You do say that, but I am jumping between this and The Last of Us Part 1 again, which is bloody beautiful to behold, and even jumping between the two, I probably couldn't tell the two apart from the best looking, but the lighting in this thing that's the first thing I think that hit me, was the lighting and sound design in this game, because walking through the Ishimura with the sound and 3D audio in this is just absolutely insane. Like the amount, like just the whispers coming through the speakers or headphones, like are enough to put you in like the most unnerving position. And I would go as far to say this was scarier for me playing than Callisto Protocol. What I do miss though from this game is what Callisto Protocol a lot of people had gripes with, but is the dodge mechanic. Like you realize how much good that dodge mechanic is in Callisto in this game, when you don't even have a quick 180 turn in this game, and the amount of times enemies sneak up on you and you can't just do that quick turn. And that's what makes this game scary, because all of a sudden you see these like things come over your shoulder, like, oh God, and you go into sprint mode, panic mode, and you forget what the actual controls are in that very moment, which I think is part of the game design and what causes the fear in this game. But just what a great remake of an already great game. Like a lot of people saying that the first iteration of this game was perfect and didn't need a remake. I argue yes. This has brought it more in line with Dead Space 2. We'll forget that Dead Space 3 exists. But the fact that Isaac Clarke is now fully voiced by the same voice actor from Dead Space 2. He didn't have a voice line at all in Dead Space 1. So bringing that more in line with the duology, because again, Dead Space 3 doesn't exist. But I would like to see them then remaster or remake number two, just because as a game, one and two, prefer number two just because it went more action horror, whereas Dead Space 1 was more about just the horror. But I think they have brought this more in line with that. There's a lot more maneuverability about Isaac Clarke, especially in those zero G moments where, you used to have to I think you have to pinpoint a position. You could go from one space to another, whereas now you've got free sort of Iron Man movement throughout those sections. And they've expanded some of those sections as well. Some of the way they've got these doors that need like access points of key cards to promote backtracking, sort of Metroidvania style, I think are really good additions to the game as well. But as I said, I'd like to see them remake number two, but I think number two holds up pretty well backwards compatibility wise. It still runs at 60 frames with a frame per second boost on Xbox, so it actually runs and looks pretty good. So I would probably like to see this team jump on and just do a Dead Space 4, because I think they've got the engine now, they've got the capabilities, they know the story. They've obviously brought this in line to go more in line with number two. Why not, create a new Dead Space experience from the ground up, which is what I'd love to see them do. So, I mean, that's my initial thoughts. You boys, you've obviously played a bit. I've played about probably 6-7 hours now. I'm probably chapter 6 out of 12 into the game.
Nice. If I can quickly just jump in and then I'll hand it over to you, Bully, for your thoughts. Just quickly on that point, Unky, I would say they need to get hold of Blue Point or a different team and get somebody else to remake number two using all these assets while they work on number four. I agree completely. This team's ready. Put them straight onto number four. But to your point, ignore number three, remake number two with a different team so it can happen quickly, and let these guys do number four so we can get, number two in a couple of years and then number four shortly thereafter. Over to you, Bully.
Oh, look, I think, Unky, you've pretty much hit it on the head with what it is. I think the thing that hits me the most, yes, it looks fantastic graphic-wise, but that lighting is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the way, that's probably where I get the most horror out of it, is it's not the creatures coming up and trying to get you or coming out of the vents and doing all that sort of stuff. It's the lighting that's where that sort of horror or the tense scenes as you're going through, and you could get to the end of the corridor and nothing pops out at you, nothing comes out, but you've spent that whole length of the corridor, thinking, oh, something's coming, just because of the shadows and the light and the sound and all that sort of stuff. And I reckon it's an amazing remake. As you said, I don't know whether they want to go on to number two or whether they just go on to 3.5 Kingdom Hearts style, Donkey.
3.5.125.
It'd be a bit weird if they had Dream Drop remix though version of Dead Space.
No, that's true. But no, it just reconfirms for me like one of my favorite games one of my favorite guns in any game being the cutter. It's just so much fun to use, and I find myself always going back to it, provided I've got the ammo for it. But the good thing about this game, it's done other things or some things with the other weapons, like giving you the secondary fire modes now. So for some weapons that I barely ever used in the old game, the flamethrower now has become one of my favorites, because you've got a secondary fire mode where you can drop down like a firewall, hold your enemies in place, and then pull out your cutter and something and hit their legs, and they sit in the fire and burn. So there's all these new mechanics and ways to kill enemies that you sort of didn't have in the previous version of the game. So I think they have to be, given all the plaudits for this game and what they've done, because they've not gone and changed a whole lot. The guts of Dead Space is there, but the stuff they have done has just been additive to it. Whereas Last of Us sort of stuck to the exact game itself and remade it. This did sort of do different things here and there with the way the map works and the game works and the gameplay works. So I have to, applaud them for that.
On that point, man, of the map change, did you blokes notice? And I wouldn't have remembered this. It's just because I went hands on with the 360 version to capture that initial footage. The map on the 360 version was better. It did the full 3D scale, like you could rotate the map around in 3D space within your HUD, and it was fantastic. And they've removed it from the remake. It's like this flat locked off section. You can pan left and right, but it was superior in the 360 version. So I was a little disappointed, but as I said, I wouldn't have realized that if I wasn't directly going back and forth. But the other shout out I want to give to them is this section here, the zero G, excuse me, sections. Just phenomenal. I love the 3D flight. I love the sort of, it's almost space combat. Bully, you remember this from the arcade stick. I kind of wanted the flight stick up when I was in that mode to be able to shoot around the level. But I absolutely love the zero G. God, I can't say that one tonight. Sections. The way it looks, the way it handles, it's better than I remember. And I was floored by that as a game mechanic. That was one of the things that really grabbed me back in the day on the 360. And I don't know how they've accelerated. They've done it better. It runs smoother. It's easier to control, but it visually looks way better. And hey, blokes, did you know you can just pull those blue boxes towards you and break them open and there's resources inside? That was pretty amazing, I thought.
Oh, it's elite. Could you figure it out in the first 10% of the game this time?
Fortunately, I had hands on with a very good training version. The training wheels version of this was Callisto,
And now
I
I do
think.
have to ask, have you stuck with the default controls? I switched my controls over to Dead Space 2 controls where L1 was sprint as opposed to clicking down for sprint.
I toyed around with it, man, but that's a case of the old man fingers letting me down. And it was Hitman 3 that broke me. If you remember in the launch year of the PS5, Hitman 3 was, so for me, sprint heavy, which was on L1. And that really did permanent damage to my knuckles. So if sprint's on L1 now, it's terror on my hands. It's actually gentler on my hands to leave it on L3. Like, I understand your point. It would be better. But for me, I can't do it from an arthritis point. Bully, how do you go with the sprint?
Oh no, I've left the controls as the default. I actually prefer the left stick into sprint for some reason. It just seems to be more games sort of use that as your way to sprint, and it's just sort of muscle memory, I guess. It just sort of makes it easier if that's what you're doing in most of your games.
So I think that's what for me. I think my muscle memory with Dead Space and Dead Space 2 was that L1 for running. So as soon as that wasn't it, I had to change it. And then I think Last of Us uses L1 to sprint. I think even Callisto Protocol was L1 to sprint as well. So for me, like switching between all three of those games in the past week, that's like literally I couldn't go to the click. It just felt weird for something like Dead Space for whatever reason. So definitely, it was good to have all those options. I do like accessibility with this stuff. The fact that you can go in and map those controllers to how you sort of like. But what a great remake. We're being spoiled already this year.
Fantastic. And I'll just take the temperature of the room. This is my final point for you guys. At the sort of higher end, the American $70, the Australian $120 for the remake, recommended retail. Obviously, you can pick it up cheaper off Amazon physically, what have you. But how do you blokes feel about this being a full price game? Do you feel like it should have been discounted because of the remake nature, or were you satisfied with, sort of value for money at that recommended retail price if you paid it?
Nah, this is worth the cash. This is if you've never played Dead Space, this thing is next gen as it gets for the moment. Like you look at this, it is a next gen game. It's if you've never played Dead Space, this is one of the best horror experiences you're going to get. And having even played Dead Space before and being one of my favorite horror experiences, this is letting me relive that all over again. And I don't feel like spending less money on it would make it a better experience. I think I'm happy to spend full price on something like this of this quality.
How's the price for you, Bully?
Yeah, I don't mind it. As Unky said, there's enough variation from the first game that it's not just a scene for scene remake with some up-res graphics and that sort of stuff. And it looks fantastic, and they've mixed enough in there just to make it different from the original anyway. That even if you're fairly conversed with playing through the first one, you've had a number of runs at it, or maybe you had a go at it in the lead up to the remake release. Um, that there's enough variation, as I said, that it differentiates itself from the original. That you still get value for money out of it. And I mean, what are we talking about? I think was it 2008 or 9 the original come out. So we look at we're talking close to 15 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, well worth it, I think.
And sorry, I said it was the final question, but I've actually got another one to back it up. If for the audience out there, if you haven't picked up the Callisto Protocol yet, and you can only get one game now that they're both available, which one do you blokes recommend? If you haven't played Dead Space before, so you're coming in fresh to either Dead Space or Callisto, assuming they were the same price, what are you recommending? For me, I would definitely recommend the Dead Space remake, but what do you think, Hunky?
Yeah, if you have to pick between the two, probably Dead Space. Although playing through Callisto on my new game plus now on the hardest difficulty with all my weapons, I'm having a lot of fun with that. But yeah, it's hard to go past this game. I mean, same director, developer of the game essentially, because obviously Callisto was made by, or Dead Space was made by the bloke that did Callisto. So, and he's working on a much smaller team with Callisto. So the fact that these guys have got to go and remake a game that was made by the bloke that did Callisto, they've had most of the hard work done for them already. Yeah, no, I'd have to pick Dead Space.
Fair enough. Bully, your thoughts?
I'd agree if you're only going to play one, play Dead Space. But if you're going to play both of them, or you've got designs on doing both of them, I'd probably go with Callisto first. It's probably just a little bit rough around the edges than what Dead Space is. So if you're going to play them both, do that one first, then jump into Dead Space. If you go the other way around, I think it'll be a bit more difficult.
I agree completely. Great final point. Blokes, we're going to do a real quick active reload. We'll be right back, audience. Stay right with us. I need to find the active reload button. It's around here somewhere. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Apologies for the delayed active reload, but on the good news, Unky Dunky's mic has been fixed. You're welcome. So, without any more delays, here we go. Game 2 this evening, Hi-Fi Rush. Before I hand it over to Unky for the lead investigation, here's me just struggling on a door about 45 or an hour into the game. This one had me blocked for ages, but here's Unky Dunky's footage from much later in the game. Unky, over to you.
Yeah, I'm just checking to make sure you can still hear me.
Yeah, mate. All good.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, the reason I was able to get a new headset is thanks to Tagaro in the chat there for his donation. Put it towards a new headset for Unky. It worked very quick, as quick as we could.
Top effort, mate. Well done.
All right, so on to Hi-Fi Rush. I saw you guys spoke about this last week. Obviously, very early impressions in relation to this game because it only just dropped, I think, the day before or day of G.E.A. last week. So the good thing about this is I've managed to put in a fair bit of time now, and this is fast becoming one of my favourite games this year, and I think it's still going to be in the top 10 come end of year as well.
Hell yes, man. I second you on those points. I'm loving my time with it. Keep going.
Mate, like, just some of the stuff you actually unlock as the game keeps going, some of the abilities which you'll see on screen now.
My inability to open this goddamn door.
hopefully it's my footage you're seeing because yeah, Troy's footage is not so great. Oh, there it is. But no, just once you start unlocking some of these abilities and stuff, I know Bully sort of was talking about how he was a bit worried with the whole rhythm-based gameplay last week, and that Ace pretty much tuned out as soon as he heard rhythm-based gameplay and didn't sort of listen to the rest of the review of the game. So poor form Ace, because this is one of the best games to come out this year. And I dare say it's one of the most creative, action, hack and slash game platform games we've had in the past few years. I think the way it does the rhythm stuff, it isn't intrusive to the gameplay. If in anything, it's additive to it in the way he moves to the beat, how everything in the world seems to move to the beat at any given time. And it's not that hard to hit those moves. It doesn't punish you so much for missing the combinations on the beat. You just get extra sort of like points, etc., or damage and special moves if you.
Sorry, Unky, I've got to interrupt you right there. Bully, come on, mate, back me up. How hard was that door to get in?
That's not the door I'm worried about. Wait for the next one.
All right, sorry, Unky, keep going.
No, that's all right. I was speaking to Bully earlier about a door that he stuck on. I'm pretty sure I nailed it on the first go, and he's still not able to get through it. So I'm a bit worried about him further into the game. But no, I'm in love with this game. I for something on Game Pass, I sort of thought I'd just dabble in for a little bit, and I got DeadSpace and that there as well. I keep coming back to this. Just the art style for me is just it's that art style I really really like. I love this anime style, but it's got that Spider-Verse style to it. The the Mitchells versus the Machines style stuff they do. With the lines and the comic book stuff. And I think this is, I think you spoke about Forspoken last week playing. I haven't jumped into that, but from all accounts, that Forspoken, a lot of people have griped with the way the character is throughout that game and sort of equips and stuff. This game is a complete opposite. This is some of the best comedic writing in a video game I've heard for a very long time. I think the timing's perfect. I think the delivery is perfect by all the characters. I think the way it's all animated is just brilliant. I just think, and there's so many times I've laughed out loud in this game, just the stuff they've said, or what he said is what I was thinking in that moment as well. It breaks the fourth wall every now and again as well. I don't have a bad thing to say about this game at all. And I was trepidatious when I did hear the whole, this is a rhythm game. But playing this game, I think Devil May Cry 5 was, free on PlayStation Plus. I put that on my console for a bit, and that for me was nothing on this game in terms of how much fun I was having with it. It's just one of the best experiences I've had in a very long time.
Yeah, mate, I second all your points there. This game has absolutely blown me away. The only gripe I've got is that I don't have more time in the week to put into this game. It's phenomenal. I absolutely love it. Bully, did you play much more this week? I know you're a bit cold on it last week.
Oh, I did try to jump back into it this week. I put another 10 minutes into it, and then I got to that switch that I have spent at least half an hour trying to get through. I cannot get through it. I take on board everything Unky says. Everything else around it, I really enjoyed that first sort of hour or so into it. Even though I can't hit the timing with it, the music was fantastic. The graphics looked great. The gameplay itself was pretty good, taking that striking to the rhythm out of it, even though you don't really get punished when you're playing when you're fighting. But if you're going to do little puzzles or little sections like the switch that if you can't hit those things, and I get that it's a big part of the game, but it just stops your progression right there and then, and that's sort of where I'm at. So I go, that's probably it for me. I'm not going to spend, as I said, more than the half an hour I have trying to get through that, and I'll put it away and move on.
Fair enough. I'd love to point out the comedy at that point. If you see old mate sitting on the game there and it's a robot in game talking about playing a rhythm game and how frustrating it
Yes.
can be. Oh, check this out, fellas. Remember I said possible future standoff, best use of the red scarf in game for Evil West?
Yes, I
Now
remember.
here we're going to cut from the Evil West character to old mate. Look, the red scarf. I'm telling you, we're going to be able to scratch
It's a
it up
thing.
together.
It's a thing. But no, just
Love it. Wait, sorry, Unky, just one sec, man. Can you just back your mic off a little because we've overcorrected and you're beaming in? But go, mate, go.
no, I was going to say that you pointed out that whole NPC playing a game, but that those robots are littered throughout the game, and they all have every time you speak to them, they have something good to say, and then you every time you hit them, they all say something funny as well. So you're not stuck in dialogue for ages, but every time they say something, it's to do with what they're doing. It's always funny, and when you hit them, they always say something different about what they're doing. I just think it's a masterful sort of stroke of like having these NPCs, but not getting stuck in conversations for too long. It's in there, it's quick, it's funny, and then on to the next one you go. And it's the same with the platforming. The platforming sections never outstay their welcome. The fighting sections never outstay their welcome. You're always moving through different things and what you're doing. It's always getting you to do something different. And I've just finished my third boss, and these boss fights are just incredible. Once you get that first one, that's when I think the game just for me was like, oh my god, this game is STR, just like my rank in most of the fights. But my choice. But like, you get to the second boss, and then that's a completely different mechanic again with all the stuff you've unlocked, like the bringing in of your two different partners. Like one does melee, one does shooting as well, and that's worked its way into the puzzles sort of and platforming sections as well. But then the third boss, it's something completely unique, which you'd see in some of my gameplay here. He's sort of taunting you throughout this whole level, and he's making this AR area, but he's in charge of like marketing or something. So what you're going to do is you're doing all these things, and he's using his resources to do all this stuff to you. So you're trying to get his budget all the way down. And then by the time he sort of brings up his last boss, you think, oh my god, I got to fight this boss now. He runs out of his funding. So, but it's just so good, so well written, and it's just some of the stuff in this game. I just can't wait to see what's going to happen next because it's just not predictable. Like they just keep throwing different things at you. I just can't wait to see what the next thing is. And when it looks this bloody good, I just can't wait to see how this game goes. And I will definitely be finishing this game. As I said, it will be in. I reckon, calling it now, this will be in my top 10 by come end of the year.
That's a fair call, man. I reckon it's a good chance it'll be in mine as well. I especially felt sorry for this robot's hands. Clearly, by the end of the fight, you've absolutely destroyed his hands.
So
I know the pain.
that's. I was going to say that's you as a boss, isn't it? Just getting your hands destroyed. He felt it just as much as you.
He sure did. But I just want to reiterate and back you up, mate. The art style in this is phenomenal. The use of the, very anime, like the white flashy lines, the grab, move, grab. I absolutely love the look of this game. It is really unique. It's really something special. If you've got Game Pass, you should 100% check this game out. It's phenomenal. Even though Bully isn't the biggest fan, I think it's for the cost of admission, you should definitely be checking out Hi-Fi Rush. Unky, any final thoughts before we move on, mate?
No, it's on Game Pass. Do yourself a favor, pick this game up. If you're a fan of rhythm games, action games, or even if you don't like rhythm games or action games, just give this thing a go because it is bloody amazing.
Indeed it is. Unky, back that mic off one more notch and we'll be away. Over to you, Bully, for game number 3 this evening, Age of Empires 2, on to an Xbox Series X. And the first question I've got for you, mate, have you gone mouse and keyboard?
Oh, I haven't yet, and I'll tell you why. I was a little trepidatious with the using the controller for it, and I thought, well, I'll have a bit of a crack at the controller first, expecting that it was going to be terrible and I'll be plugging the mouse and keyboard in. I can tell you the way that they have designed the game around the controller. So this is obviously, Age of Empires 2 itself, released in the late 90s as a PC game. The definitive edition was released on PC about 4 years ago. And we're getting it on the consoles for effectively the first time. So that's the sort of background of the game itself. Now, when you actually start playing it, the way that they've designed the control scheme, it actually is quite intuitive that you can play it with the controller. It's got fairly sensible shortcuts, and they've tweaked some of the game design as well. So instead of having to, like for instance, if you want to select all of your um,
Units.
all of your units to go and attack someone. You don't have to. Whereas on the keyboard and mouse, you'd have to actually encompass them all and then select them as a group and etc. etc. Move along. If you push left on the D-pad, hold it down for a second or two, it selects every one of your units that you've currently got. So it does it quite quickly. There's little things that'll, if you're being like if you've got a watchtower or something, for instance, that's being attacked by the enemy, you can hit um, the share button on the controller, and it will go across to whatever event has just popped up to say it's happening.
Yeah, right. That's clever.
So there's that, and that also works out with if you're building, if you're using your peasants to either build or you're training units or whatever, and then it'll flash up saying you've just built this. You can hit the same thing. It'll jump back to your town, and then you can do the next thing with that building. If whether it's training some more of your uh, archers or your knights or any of that sort of stuff, you can jump straight back into it. And when you click on the actual buildings themselves, there's basically a radial menu that comes up to say, okay, which one of these things do you want to do? Do you want to build this? Do you want to build this? Do you want to upgrade this? Do you want to upgrade that? And it's actually really intuitive. So I would suggest anyone that has a passing interest in it that is or doesn't have access to a keyboard and mouse, or maybe off put by the fact that it's on a controller scheme, don't let it. I've put through. I think I've probably put through 3 or 4 hours in it. I've done the first sort of main mission of Scotland. So there's 4 parts to that. I've gone through all that. Really enjoyed it, and I haven't once become frustrated or annoyed going through and winning each of the scenarios. I haven't sat there and gone, oh, why can't I do this? Or how do I do this? Or why can't I do this? It's actually quite intuitive. I've really liked it. It's got a pretty good tutorial that's not too overbearing, but it gives you the nuts and bolts of what you need to use the controller for.
Can I ask? Yep. Sorry, can I ask quickly, because we're seeing it on screen now, the definitive edition with, I think it's 3 extra campaigns. Is the game impressing you enough that you're going to shell out the extra money for the extra content in the game, or are you going to stick with the base for now?
Oh, we'll see how we go. It's got quite a bit in there as it is anyway. So you've got a fair bit to play through. And even the smaller maps, as I was saying, basically the tutorial missions were the Scotland ones. And that's probably, having just completed that, you're probably looking at 30 to 40 minutes on each one of those 4. So if you multiply that out with, I think I saw on there's about 20 different, or the starting options are about 20 different campaigns with different origins or, protagonists or what have you. If that's the sort of time frame that you're looking at maybe between 4 and 5 hours for each one of those, you're looking at 100 hours before you'd even start hitting the point where you're having to pay for extra content. So we'll see how we go. I might be over it by then, but the game itself, I mean, it plays well. It looks really good. It's a real-time strategy game. We're not you're comparing apples and oranges when you're talking about how DeadSpace and The Last of Us look.
Oh, yeah, totally different kettle of fish.
But it's sharp. You know what characters you're looking at. You know what buildings you're looking at. The water effects look really good and all that sort of stuff. And the gameplay, for anyone that hasn't played it, it's these style of games. It's basically just you build a base, you'll mash a bunch of units, and then you go and attack the enemy. Is essentially what you do, and then there's some minor little quests or tasks that you have to complete in that. I'm really enjoying it, and again, it's another Game Pass game. I know Microsoft has been copping in the neck for a little while now with their lack of exclusives and all that sort of stuff. But I have to say, Game Pass is still powering along, and the releases we're getting on that is amazing. And even to the point of, we just spoke about in the last game, the Hi-Fi Rush. And then, before that, in December, we had High on Life as well. So games like that you may not necessarily, and this probably fits into one of them, is one of them that you may not necessarily check out, but because it's or pay for, but because it's free and part of the service, you do, and you end up really enjoying it and finding a lot of time is put into it.
Yeah, brilliant wrap up, mate. I love it. For me, I would love to go hands on, but there are just way too many games. Like, I am an old school RTS fan, the old Command and Conquers back in the day on PC. God, I love that soundtrack. Give it to me now. But I do love a good RTS, but I am an old school mouse and keyboard RTS fan. I would love to check this out, but it has been so long since an RTS game has called to me, and I am loving Dead Space. I am loving Hi-Fi Rush, so I can't see me getting this anytime soon. I hope it's still in Game Pass when I've finally cleared enough of the front log to get to it. But I would love to check it out, but I'm not going to be going hands-on anytime soon. How about you, Unky?
No, I'm the same as you, man. There's too much else going on at the moment. I know it's free on Game Pass, but Dead Space, Hi-Fi Rush, and Harry Potter around the corner.
Hogwarts!
There's not a chance I'm getting into this game. Not even anytime soon. I don't think I'll be able to play it on the console. Yeah, as you said, I like the Command & Conquers back in the day, but that's where my RTS days, I think, ended.
Now, I don't want to tip my cap too much, but you are going to definitely want to check out my Let's Install that'll be happening this week because it's coming out on the 7th. I've pre-ordered it. Crying Jim Ryan's online thing, so I know there's only 5 days left, and then we'll be doing the install here on the channel, and keep your eyes peeled because I've got something special in mind for that install costume-wise. I'll say no more. All right, any final thoughts on Age of Empires 2 before we move on, fellas?
No, as I said, the only thing is like there's a lot to play at the moment. I get all that, but it's something for mine that is completely different to what we're playing. Otherwise, you don't really, very rarely do you see an RTS on a console, and
Yeah.
even rarer than that is it actually works and it's decent to play. So,
And you don't get stuck on a door button for 24 hours plus.
No, I just build a siege weapon and knock it down.
I love it. Kick it indoors here on G.E.A. All right, then this will be game 4. Oh, and I got to tell you, SpongeBobSquarePants, the Cosmic Shake, I had a pretty bloody ordinary day today, and I didn't think anything was going to put a big smile on my dial, but I went hands-on with this later this afternoon. I only got to put about an hour into it, but my God, there were smiles, chuckles, laughs. I never quite teared up from laughing, but geez, I got bloody close. If you, and I'm not even an old school SpongeBob SquarePants fan. It's something my boys have been watching for a few years. So I've caught episodes here and there, but nothing I was ever into. But this game has absolutely nailed the feel, the comedy, the stylings of the TV show, and they've delivered in droves. I can't recommend this game highly enough. If you've got young kids that are SpongeBob SquarePants fans, no question, go out and get this immediately. It's not a full price game, it's a discount price game, but it is worth every penny. I should note, I was playing on a PlayStation 5, but it is a PlayStation 4 game. There's no next gen game. You can get it on the Xbox One or the PS4. Obviously, it's backwards compatible for the newer consoles, but it's not a newer console release. It's the last gen. But don't let that put you off at all, because you're in this for the visual style and the comedy and the just the whole flavor of it, and they've nailed it. Going next gen would do nothing other than improve load times, but this game is really something special. If you've got young kids that like SpongeBob, definitely get into this game. I can't speak highly enough of it. It's 3D platforming, so I took a couple of whoopsies off the edge, but Bully, you're going to love this method there. I don't know if you saw at the top there, the campaign, there's different outfits. Get this, Bully, there's a different outfit for every biome. Can you believe it? You unlock the outfit and that unlocks the biome, and then you go from the overworld, that's the main, the land he lives in. What is it, Bikini Shores, Bikini Bottoms, whatever it is, where he lives in the TV
they call it the Bikini Biome, I think.
The bikini biome, indeed. I love visiting the bikini biome. And then you unlock the costume. First level is the Wild West. So you unlock your Wild West outfit. Bang, the portal opens up. You jump on through your land in the Wild West. You got your cowboy hat on. You jump on your seahorse. Get what they did there? Your mount becomes a seahorse and you ride through the level. And it's an absolute joy. They've nailed the look and feel. Now, I haven't been this attached to a mount since Red Dead 2, I don't reckon.
I was going to say, sorry, Witcher and Red Dead and Zelda. There's a new favorite boy in town.
There is. The goddamn seahorse mount is a thing of genius, beauty, comedic stylings. I absolutely love it. Check out that outfit, would you? I'm in the Wild West. They've just nailed it. Just the whole thing put a smile on my face. Here's me failing some platforming beautifully. You know, it's my gameplay when you see that. But you jump on the mount, you ride into town, you go into the local tavern, you see the sheriff. The sheriff wants to pick a fight with you, but then bad guys come in, then you team up with the sheriff and you clean out the town. It's just, I absolutely love this. I cannot speak highly enough of this game. They've absolutely nailed it. Boys, any questions?
I almost picked it up because my little fella's been getting to SpongeBob a lot recently, and so. But
No
I had
question. Go and do it. Right. Pick up your phone right now and buy it, Unky. No
I got Bikini. Had Bikini Bottom already bought or something. It was free on PlayStation Plus or something. I think I picked it up.
I think November last year they gave one away on the PlayStation Plus. Yep.
Yeah, so I reinstalled that, and he was having a lot of fun with that. And I was impressed with that, the way the game looked and sort of felt like the cartoon and stuff as well. So
that old one, I would call a 6 or a 7. This game's a 9, man. No doubt. Get this one. It's a far better experience. And from a gameplay standpoint as well, the way they're traversing biomes, Bully, you wouldn't believe it. It's a thing of beauty. Sorry, Unky, keep going.
No, that's right. So yeah, I think if it gets a price drop and there's not a whole bunch of other things to play and stuff, it's hard now. Little fella's back to school this week, so far less time for him to jump on the games and play them. But no, it definitely looks fun. It's good. I'm glad to see sort of you've had fun with it, and hopefully your boys have had fun with it as well. Because I could definitely see myself picking up in a slower month or so.
Yeah, I can tell you the 7 and 9-year-olds, 4 massive thumbs up coming from that other room as well. Bully, any thoughts?
Oh no, I think you sort of covered it. It was more just the when you spoke about Bikini Bottom, which was obviously the remake of the PS2 era game. Played through a bit of that, and it still had that vibe of an old game that they'd sort of rehashed a little bit, but a lot of it was still exactly like it was 20 years ago. So I guess that's my sort of question is when you're playing this one, does it feel like
It feels modern, mate. Modern. Yeah, there's biomes. It's as modern as you can get.
Oh, biomes, do you say?
Yes.
I'm checking out. I'm out. You've cost them a sale.
Bully, I know you've got young kids, mate. Do them a favor, pick it up. This game, phenomenal. Unky, to your point, this game made me laugh so hard, so unexpectedly on a down day. This game lifted me up like nothing else. Here we are into the old West Ham. We're about to go into the tavern and see the sheriff. This game picked me up in a way that a game hasn't picked me up in a long time. Like we were talking about how good High on Life's comedy was.
Yeah.
And that's comedy that you can enjoy as an adult, but you can't share it with your kids. Whereas this game, kid-friendly comedy, but it's almost hitting those same high notes without the swear words. This game is really something special. From games of the year, this is currently in my top 10. Granted, we're just ended February and not a lot has come out yet, so it's kind of in there by default. But other games will have to work hard to do better. Even the pacing of the script and the comedic stylings, they give it a breath and then bam, another joke. I love it. I've gone into a tizzy, so we better move on. Over to you, Bully, for some Goldeneye action. Bully.
Well, I don't know how I follow that introduction, but just haven't put a hell of a lot more into it than what I'd done last week. Probably just another couple of levels and then a handful of multiplayer games with a young fellow, which I don't think he sort of really understands why I'm enjoying it so much. But,
it's because of that auto aim, isn't it? Gee, they're generous with that.
They really are. There's no point pulling that aim trigger.
No, but it's one of those things. It's just that massive nostalgia hit. The amount of time that I spent on this when it first came out on the N64, and I think I spoke about in the Let's Play when I went through the levels there, is that each level's got 3 different difficulty levels, and then within those difficulty levels you've got different challenges that you have to sort of meet, and then you've got a timed run that you've got to do as well. And being I think what was I, 15 or 16 when it came out, and not a lot of money in the bank, that you just ended up replaying the game over and over again, trying to get those challenges and unlocks and all the rewards and stuff. And that's just more of the same for me with this. Just that first level, I think I've run through 3 or 4 times just to get through. Okay, now I've got to do this objective. Now I've got to do this objective. Okay, now once I've got all of those, then I can move on to the second level. And it's sort of playing it like that. That's why it's probably taken a bit longer. But for me, really enjoying it. There's been a bit of hate for it from what I've seen.
What?
Just with the
Blacklist those sites wherever you're reading that hate, mate. That's not worth your time.
I think there's a few people that are sort of having a crack at it, basically because they.
It wasn't because of Sean Bean's face, was it?
Well, they basically, but they haven't done anything to it. Essentially, it's not
good.
They haven't remade it. They haven't tried to touch it up. They haven't tried to do anything. Which,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's part of the charm, and that was one of the first things I looked at when you played that first level. Is have they still got those ridiculous square faces with almost like a photograph stuck on a box as a head? And it did, and I just went, "Oh, this is hilarious." It's for those that weren't around in the 90s, played the N64 at great length, you would look at it and go, "This looks ridiculous," because those 3D games don't really hold up in the same way that a Super Nintendo or an NES or something of those sort of games still can hold up today. This sort of style doesn't hold up as much in terms of the 3D artwork and all that sort of stuff. So if you weren't around at the time, I can understand a little bit of the criticism, but if you were, you just take it as it is.
Tell you who does hold up though. That Urumov bloke just took about 500 rounds to his chest and go down.
But yeah, again, it's just another gem from Game Pass, and really enjoying it. It was a little bit unexpected, I think, the drop at the announcement, and then the coming out a couple of days later. So I really enjoyed it for what it is, and I haven't had a look at it yet. But there was one thing I've been meaning to get into is to see about the online multiplayer and see how that sort of fares in terms of whether you ping rate or how that's...
There's no online multiplayer for Xbox, only for Switch.
Boo! All right, fellas, set your watch. Look how quickly I knocked this level over. Sorry, mate, keep going.
No, that's about all I got to say on it. Really enjoying it, and just sort of plodding my way through it, amongst other things.
Well, I want to back you up on all those points, man. The nostalgia hit alone, this game is amazing. And I know we sort of briefly discussed it previously, but your playthrough of that first level, it just highlighted how well you remembered the placement of every enemy. You're just walking corners, bang, turning, shooting, moving on. You knew every one of them. Yours displayed it way better than I could. So shout out to you and your memory. But I had a very similar experience, mate. Just it doesn't matter that 20 years or whatever have passed. You just bang, that's where this is, and this level, bang, that's where he is, and that level. Let's keep going. The nostalgia hit on this one, prime. I won't hear any negative talk about this. I love this so much. I've queued up for the weekend another viewing of Goldeneye, the film, with some Pierce Brosnan action. What do you say to that, Unky?
No, that's good. I actually thought the same thing. I thought it might be worth another rewatch of Goldeneye. But just chucking this on, just as soon as you hear that menu music come in and just the in the background, it gets you going. As soon as you jump into levels, the music goes. You're back to being a kid in school playing this with your mates and stuff. So I actually jumped on and played some split screen with the little fella, and he got so into it. Like, he absolutely loved it. Yeah, I had to sort of, make sure that I didn't win every single match. But even then, he picked it up pretty quick.
Bad gamer.
That's right. Like, I think he's getting pretty good with the old dual thumbstick, playing a lot of Minecraft. So his first-person shooter skills actually aren't too bad. And once he got used to not having to actually aim, and I said, use the auto aim, buddy. It's much easier. So he picked up that, and we were jumping into all our favourite levels. And like, he really liked Facility. He really liked doing the laser one, and we'd sort of fight to get to the lasers and stuff. So it was just so much fun. It just reminded me how much fun I had doing couch co-op. And yeah, perfect timing. Achievements. We have achievements in GoldenEye.
Finally. The thing I didn't realize it was missing. It sounds like 2 big thumbs up or 6 big thumbs up here. I don't think anyone here has anyone got any final points. I bloody love it, is my final point.
The only point I have is, Xbox great, Switch apparently no good. Obviously you get the online multiplayer, but apparently the controls are all kinds of stuffed up on the Switch because it's trying to play like a Nintendo 64 game.
Is that default controls? Like, is it any better on the Pro controller, do you know?
No, apparently, like, even with the Pro controller, you can't really change it to something that's acceptable. There's workarounds and stuff, but it doesn't play like the Xbox controllers where you pick it up and it just plays like a conventional first-person shooter. So you're very wary of the Nintendo Switch version, which is unfortunate because the game was initially a Nintendo game. But if you want a premium experience on a widescreen TV and see GoldenEye stretched out in 77 inches, give it a go because it's still as much fun today as it was back then.
Heck yes, I highly recommend it. And of course, a big shout out to Bully's playthrough of this first level available on the channel. No further points from me. Bully, any closing thoughts for the old Goldeneye, mate?
Oh, the only thing is just from the chat, Tigaro is just sort of backing up what I was saying in terms of the grief that the game's getting from some that don't really remember what the games were like there, and said the PS1, SNES, and Mega Drive were the cutting edge of gaming at the time, and there's too much recency bias
Yeah.
when we're talking about games from back then. And I 100% agree with him. So,
Yep.
Some of my best gaming days were with the SNES. That you had the time and the young kid, you didn't have much else going on other than school and a bit of sport and that sort of stuff, that you could sit there for a whole weekend and play through some of your favourite games over and over again. So 100% agree with that.
Yeah, totally. I agree completely as well. I love it. Unky, any closing thoughts before we move on to game/TV episode 6 this week?
Nah, nothing at all. Just another gem from Game Pass.
I love it. Perfect work. All right, then. Without further ado, game 6 / The Last of Us. Who's leading us this week? Is it you, Unky? Over to you, Unky. What are your thoughts on The Last of Us HBO episode 3?
This is the first real deviation we've sort of had from the game in terms of the way they told a story, which for me, I don't mind. It's got a real Mythic Quest vibe about it, where it's gone and focused on some other characters away from our main characters, which will gripe a few people when it comes to just wanting to get along with the story, but I actually don't mind filling out some of these characters. This is what the TV show's for. This is why I watch the TV show. If I wanted to, rewatch the game, I'd just play the game again because the game itself is so cinematic. So I really like what they did with this episode. They obviously then expanded on the fact that I think in the game he alludes to the fact that Frank alludes to the fact that Bill alludes that Frank is his partner. Just one line in the game, and you can sort of draw all kind of conclusions to that as business partner in crime when it comes to killing zombies, or his intimate partner. And obviously we've had all that laid to rest here in this episode.
Laid to rest. I see what you did.
There you go. Watch the episode. Watch the episode if you want to know what I mean. But they don't sort of linger on that stuff too much. But I think the story they tell between these two, I think, is so well told. I think I've heard some people compare it to the first 5 minutes of Up, but just an hour-long version of it, about showing, a couple going through the apocalypse. But the way Last of Us has always been, it's been a story about love, and Last of Us Part 2 is about hate. So I think this really sort of drives home the fact of there can be love in this sort of, terrible world that we've got in The Last of Us. And it's just nice to see that side of it. And the way they did sort of weave some of the story stuff into the start and to the end was really well done. It's still, I don't think we don't really want to speak spoilers and stuff, but it still sort of had a similar ending to the way at least one of those characters ends in the game. It's just done slightly differently here. And I think the imagery with the window at the end of that episode, going back to the menu screen, just gave me chills at the end there.
Yes, agreed.
Just seeing the car, and there was moments in this where they actually looked like they were in a game and looting and grabbing stuff. And Ellie's still doing that thing where she still wants to get her first gun, which is obviously well known from the first game. So they're still doing all that stuff. But with this episode, it was just such a good standalone portion of TV. I think it's getting a lot of great reviews in relation to just what it did for TV and what it did for a gay relationship, especially with someone like these two characters that they're not they're just these gruff-looking men with beards, and I just think the performances these guys put in, especially Nick Offerman playing Bill, he just does a tremendous job just selling that character and just the emotion that he shows throughout that whole thing. I said to my wife as we were watching it as well, just the makeup artists in this thing are ridiculous. The way they can make them look young and age them up. And it is absolutely flawless the way it looks. Like you would just swear these guys have grown whatever almost 20 years throughout watching this one episode. And I just think it's so well done. I think the way it touches on different aspects of their relationship, like it's not just all rosy the whole time, which does sort of bring in the whole Last of Us thing as well. But it gives us a very good message for where Joel and Ellie are going in the thing. I think it did it very well, quite well. It's a little bit ham-fisted when you know the story, but it gave Joel that sort of push to be like to find someone to care for and love. Which is the whole Ellie thing. So we're going to start seeing their relationship sort of flourish now after, he's sort of, got that note from Bill at the end, which I like that some of the wording in that note that he received was very similar to the note that Frank left Bill in the game. I thought that was a really nice touch. And I thought Ellie Bella Ramsey's performance reading that note, that brought me a chuckle when she did she read it like that. I just thought that was really well done and just brought levity to a real sad moment. But I think it was just really well acted by everyone there. Great episode of TV. Again, you could say that they deviated too far from the game just that one episode. A lot of people wanted to see Bill's town and, Joel hanging upside down and shooting clickers and all that stuff. But that works well for a game. Does it work well for a TV show that's trying to be something more than the game? Probably not. So I'm actually very happy with the way they did this, and it makes me excited to see where they might expand on stuff later in the game. There's a specific part in the game where you're walking through caves as a character that's only ever been talked about in notes. So I'd like to see that expanded upon. Whether we get that or not, I'm going to have to wait and see. But this just gives me hope that, we don't necessarily need to see Joel and Ellie for, these other characters to carry a show.
Yes, I agree. If I can put my editor's hat on for a moment, the change I'd make, I would have taken 5 minutes out of their relationship building scenes, and I would have just loved to have seen 5 more minutes of action in there. I want to see Bill being Bill from the game, gunning up, shooting down. They gave us one scene of him, with a sniper rifle in the street, and it was awesome. For me, it was a flashback to Lethal Weapon 4, the opener of Lethal Weapon 4, the old mate with the flamethrower on in front of the petrol station. That to me is Bill. And God, I just wanted another 5 minutes of Bill being an absolute badass, cutting people down. I wish they had have done just take 5 minutes off that relationship building. It was a bit excessive, and put it into some more hardcore action with Bill. That would have been amazing. And then Troy editor would have been very happy. But to your point, man, they absolutely nailed it. The relationship building, the way she delivered it, Ali delivered the note was perfect. And I know I'm a bit of a softie, but I was so close to crying at the end of that episode when she read that note. And to your point, mate, the way they were underscoring the need to live for somebody else and devote your life to protecting people, that really got me. I was so close to tears. The episode was brilliant. So as far as an emotional arc in a TV show, they nailed it. It was perfect. I would have just loved a tiny bit more action, and I would have been really happy with it. But yeah, mate, I second the vast majority of stuff you said. Bully, your thoughts, mate?
Oh, just to counter that, I'd say, just from what Unky said before, with the first game being about love and the second one being about hate, I think it's just leaning really heavily in towards that. Is that you could have had, a large portion of the episode in the lead up to their relationship where Bill's just going crazy and defending his town and doing all that sort of stuff. And we see a couple of little bits where he's a bit gruff when they first meet, when he first meets Joel. But I think that the fact that they've actually spent more of that time exploring how you can see where he started off and how grumpy he is, and he's lived in that town for obviously a period of time by himself. He's used to being alone. That he's over that time period that he opens up and almost becomes a different person from where you start the episode. I'd probably prefer it that way. Each to their own, though. I guess if you wanted a bit more action, but and the only other thing I'll touch on is what Unky said before, just in relation to the differentiation between the show and the game. I sort of look at it almost to your point before, is that if you're just going to retell what's in the video game, yes, you might get a little bit more of an expanded audience because it's on TV and they're not necessarily playing video games, etc., etc. But what you end up going to probably doing is losing the core audience who know the story inside out and back to front and all that sort of stuff. So if you just retold each of the games as were, I reckon after 2 or 3 episodes, you'd start looking at it and going, yeah, well, I know where this is going. Yeah, it looks good. The clickers look great. They're fantastic, but I've seen it in episodes 1 and 2. I'm not going to stick around with it. But the fact that they're fleshing out these background stories, and I mentioned it last week when we spoke about episode 2, and they had the start of the show was in Indonesia. And then, even going back to episode 1 where you had that opening of the talk show and they're having a chat about the possibilities of how things could eventuate in terms of a virus and all that sort of stuff. The fact that they're fleshing out all that sort of stuff, that's what's keeping me engaged. That's what's keeping me coming back to it every week and highly anticipating to see what they do with each of those, effectively their levels within the game, but how they flesh it out and retell it and expand on it. That's the interesting part for me.
Yeah, I agree, mate. They're great points as well. I have no other points on this one. So, Unky, Bully, unless you got some final points, I suggest we kick in the newsroom door.
Let's do it.
All right, let me find a button. Jeez, I wasn't ready for that. Here we go. Unky Dunky, who has the right to remain newsworthy this evening? Starting us off, Sony, what's going on?
This week, Sony, I don't know if you guys saw the new ads and campaigns and stuff they've been doing recently, but this one dropped a couple of days ago. And yeah, in it, as you can see, the top screenshot there was they're doing a whole bunch of live action stuff. And this is from a game that we haven't seen yet. So everything else was recognizable. Returnal was in there. Callisto was in there because I think that was a PlayStation push for marketing wise. I think it had God of War was in there, obviously. But then this little game popped in there. And everyone sort of seems to speculate that that could potentially very much be Uncharted. And there's another scene sort of later on where it's got her blowing the dust off this artifact as well. And I don't know what other game that could possibly be, but for me, that screams, I'm going to say spoiler alert, Uncharted 4, spoiler alert, Uncharted 4. End of that game, we get Cassie, which is the daughter of Nathan Drake and Elena. And that could very much be her in the new Uncharted 5. Obviously, it won't be getting developed by Naughty Dog themselves. They came out in the last week or so and said they're done with Uncharted, so which is a nice clean cut for someone else to get in there. But I'm excited. If this is what this is, I think we'll probably see something mid-year.
I love it. I love your speculation. I want you to speculate just a little bit further. Do we know what Bluepoint are currently doing? Who do you think they've tapped to build Uncharted 5, if not Naughty Dog themselves?
There was a studio. I can't remember. They actually mentioned a studio that was working with it. I think Naughty Dog, some Naughty Dog employees that actually were helping out with it and stuff as well. I can't remember the name of the company. Bully might be able to check for us. There is a company that's working on it. I can't remember their names, but it's definitely not Bluepoint. Bluepoint, I think, hopefully, I think they've come out and said they're doing a new IP, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're working on a Metal Gear remaster or remake, but which I'd also like to see. But no, this gets me excited because they did do a call to say keep a keen eye on this trailer to see if you can point out all the games. So that they wanted us to look at this trailer and sort of probably speculate. But there's not a bad bet. If you scroll down, I think Troy, there's a screenshot of the artifact in the article as well. But this gets me quietly excited that Sony's ready to pull the punch on another Uncharted because they'd be mad not to keep Uncharted going. It is arguably one of their biggest franchises now going around. They've obviously got the Tom Holland movie now that did tremendously well at the box office, and we'll be getting another one of those, I believe, as well at some point. Not that it's been announced, but I think Uncharted's too big at this point.
Counter that point, I think, didn't Tommy Holland come out and say that he signed up for Uncharted 2 and 3? I thought they signed him up for 2 more films. I could be wrong with that.
I haven't heard it. I'd be very happy to hear that was the case. But
I want to say like 3 months ago that story came out. But Bully, if you're on fingers on keyboards, mate, go hunting. About 3 months ago, I feel like Tom Holland came out and said he'd signed on for another 2 films, and Marky Mark.
I can't wait for that. So that's, again, Uncharted. It needs to come back. It will come back. It's too big a franchise for Sony to not come back. So this could be its time to shine. I think, obviously, I don't know if I had in the news tonight, but by the sounds of things, Sony, Xbox, and Nintendo will not be at E3 this year. So,
Bully, shout out to you, mate. I saw you lighting them up on Twitter for that point. That was great.
Oh, if it wasn't dead already, it's dead now. Who's showing up to it?
Embracer Group and Tencent.
And they've moved the venue as well. Bully, is there any chance we can get like a handful more level out of you on that mic, man? You've come back real low.
That's all right. I'll just lean forward.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, as I said, I don't know where you're going with E3. They've missed the last couple of years. It's been superseded by the Summer Games Fest, I think, and the showcases that they've got on there. I don't see the point in it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, sorry, fellas. I'm floating rain noise here.
That's all right. Again, the problem with E3 is it's got such good branding. I think the E3 name will always sound bigger than, SGF, Summer Games Fest. Like, it just has a better ring to it. So, but I know that Jeff Keighley, he's sort of, he's running SGF, and I think everyone wants to be at his show now, just with the way things are going. So, I mean, we're going to be stuck with the smaller guys. You got your Capcoms and Ubisoft and stuff. They're probably going to be your bread and butter now of E3, so they can tell us that Black Flag's been delayed to 2025, and Beyond Good and Evil 2 is coming out 2030 or something like that. So,
Skull and Bones, any update? And sorry, Bully, now that you're back, man, any thoughts? Is this Uncharted 4? If not, what else could it be?
Uncharted 5.
Well,
sorry, thank you, Unky.
Well, the only thing is, didn't Neil Druckmann come out during the week and say, you might have covered this, that Uncharted's basically dead and done, and they've moved on, and
With Naughty Dog, yeah.
and they've almost said the same with The Last of Us. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how we go. Unless they're going to rebrand Uncharted with his daughter.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what Unky was saying. But apparently, Unky has already mentioned that it's another studio's doing it, and they've ID'd them somewhere, but we don't have the name. So can you Google that, please, Billy? And there was another thing for you to Google, and I can't remember what it was. But Unky, story 2. Oh, my God, I'm poorly laid out this week. Story 2, Hi-Fi Rush. Tell me things.
Story 2, I've already spoken about how good this game is. And, yeah, it looks like in its debut week, Hi-Fi Rush reportedly outperformed Forspoken on Steam. So, considering it's a Game Pass game, that's it's fantastic. But no, Xbox surprise release, Hi-Fi Rush reportedly outperforms Forspoken on Steam during both games' debut weeks. According to the Steam Weekly Global Top Sellers list on SteamDB, which lists the best-selling games on Steam by revenue made, Hi-Fi Rush came in at number 8, while Forspoken didn't even make the top 10. So I think the only person in this panel here that's played both is Troy. So he can probably speak to this probably more so than any of us. But my bets would be, yep, it's because it's the far superior game, and it's been, given all the applause on Metacritic. I think it was in the 90s for a bit. It's currently sitting at 89. I'm not sure where Forspoken is, but all the buzz around Forspoken is about how bad the game is, whereas all the buzz around Hi-Fi Rush is all positive.
I can tell you, mate, I pumped another 3 hours into Forspoken, so my total hour count now with Forspoken is at 4 hours, and I, at the 1.5 hour mark, so half an hour after my report from last week, I had to kill I went into the audio menu and just turned off all voices. I'm skipping all cutscenes. That story is absolute trash and of zero interest to me, but you've got to be like a miner foraging for gold. There is awesome gameplay underneath it all. If you can jump the cutscenes, they put so many walking simulator moments in it. Like, I thought it was just the opening in New York City that was walking simulator and get over yourself. But oh no, you go out and you're free parkour movement and there's awesome gameplay for a bit. And then, we'll put you in a like medieval castle, whatever, and you can walking simulator around for another 45 minutes. So it's 45 minutes of walking simulator, half an hour, maybe another 45 minutes of cool running around parkour, and then a full another 40 minutes of walking simulator in medieval town, and it's just trash. That's where I'm muting the gameplay. I'm skip. Yeah, just run to objective marker. Get me out of here. I want to be back out in the open world. And then I got to drop another like 2.5 hours in the open world doing awesome gameplay. Man, I haven't even said this on there yet. They have done the skill upgrades for the I'm blanking on her name. It's not Rem because she was Frey. Thank you. I was going to say Rem from Never Awake, and I've played more of that game. You should definitely play that game. It's awesome twin stick shooter. But so Frey, you get the 2.5 hours running around the open world, and they've done it like I'm blanking on it. Xbox game, Xbox exclusive. They did Crackdown 3, Crackdown. The Crackdown orbs, they've done like the orbs thing for a skill. So you're doing this awesome parkour, free flow movement around, and there's just like it looks kind of like a white cloud, like a mana pool maybe, would be the best way to describe it. But they're everywhere throughout the land, and they're like up on these cool bits. So it's like encouraging you to try out the parkour movement. It's like, I'm running up the side of the cliff and I'm jumping these like little mana pools, but they're all like every single one's like one skill point, and then you got to bank up like 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever to unlock more skills. But it's like when you're in that open world and you're running around as Frey and you're using the parkour movement, you come across people and you beat them down, the game's a goddamn 9. It's right up there. But then for some unknown reason, some idiot has enforced this, now we're just going to stop the whole lot and take all the freedom of movement, all the fun stuff away from you, have a walking simulator and terrible dialogue for 45 minutes before you can get back out to where you want to be, free movement. So I've never seen a game that's more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not schizophrenic, bipolar. Bipolar, that's the word. I've never seen a more bipolar game. There's moments where it's just absolute trash, but then it hits like 9s in gameplay. It's such a shame. That game
That's why
Forspoken
you have sold less than Hi-Fi Rush.
And Hi-Fi Rush is amazing, as we discussed earlier. Sorry. Bully, any thoughts on this actual news story and not my half-assed review of Forspoken?
Oh, look, I can sort of see where it's coming from. You look at the price between the two of them. One's, Hi-Fi is half the price of Forspoken.
Half the
Shouldn't
price,
be.
twice as good a game.
and it's well, Forspoken's getting a fairly decent clip. The only thing I'll say is I'm not sure how much stock you put in the Steam sales, because I don't think, from my understanding, or the way I would look at it, is Forspoken would be something that would be a big seller on Steam. I'd see it more as a console game. So it'd be interesting to see when you get the sales from PlayStation come out in the next month or so, how it's actually performed on PlayStation. Obviously, you're not going to be able to compare it to Hi-Fi Rush over there, but just to see what the sales are like there. I don't think it will be particularly strong, as has been evidenced across the board anyway. But it'd be interesting to see if you did get a few more than what you're actually getting on Steam. But as you said, Troy, and I think we mentioned it last week when we were speaking about Forspoken, is I was really interested in it to start with, and then the closer it got to the release date, the more I lost interest in it, and went from a day one purchase to, oh, I'll wait until the inevitable price drop on that one, especially if it's not selling well. That'll be down with some fairly heavy reductions, I would have thought, in the next couple of months, if it continues the way it has.
Yeah, and rightly so. All right, story 3. This one is far more appealing. Let me hit a button here to get us over. Unky, there's news on Star Wars. Talk to me, my friend.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, the news isn't quite appealing because the Star Wars Jedi Survivor has been delayed. Respawn's sequel will now release 6 weeks later than planned, EA confirms. So it's now to April 28 with the original launch date of March 17. So it's actually not that long, but so delays like this, I'm happy to see this. I don't mind it. There's plenty of games coming out this year, so as excited as I am for this game, I can wait an extra 6 weeks if it means the game's going to be more polished, because I remember when the Jedi Fallen Order came out, there was a lot of issues when it came to frame rate and bugs and stuff in the game. So the fact that this game's been pushed back that 6 weeks just for that final polish, I'm more than happy with that. I'd rather get a game that's polished and works and doesn't get review bombed for poor performance on day one. So no, I'm all for it. 6 weeks, not long to wait. As I said, plenty of other stuff coming around that time as well. I just feel sorry for whatever games that might have been in that date now that this has been pushed towards. So I'm sure there's some stuff there that's probably starting to freak out a bit because this game's looking bloody good.
Who wants to hear my tinfoil hat on this one?
Oh, go chuck that hat on, Troy.
Put it on.
All right. They've got the inside scoop. They know when Starfield's dropping, and Starfield was dropping on or damn like within the same week as the original Star Wars date. I don't reckon it's been delayed for polish. I reckon they've delayed to get out of Starfield's way. So what was the original launch date for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, or week? What was that? Is it March? Back into March?
It was, what did I say, March 17th?
Yep.
I'm going to call it right now. March 17th is the Starfield drop date, and Star Wars has just moved because it didn't want to go head-to-head with Starfield.
Troy, if Starfield comes out on March 17, I will buy you a collector's edition of the game.
I'm going to take you on that collector's edition of the game. Bully, how's my tinfoil hat sitting this evening?
Oh, look, I'd even go one step further and say Starfield's not coming out the first 6 months of this year, to be honest with you.
Oh!
I don't think...
Come on, mate. Hi-Fi Rush, it happened last week. The stealth drop. Microsoft, look at the results of their marketing from last week. You know they nailed it. You know they got positive buzz. Come on, mate.
The only thing I'd say with that, though, is that Starfield and Redfall, to a lesser degree, are their two big games that they need to sell. Well, not necessarily sell lots of copies because they're being on Game Pass, but they need to be critically well received. And I don't think that they're the type of games that you do a stealth release on. They'll have a long lead in. We'll know the release date months out in advance, and they'll have
Fallout 4, mate. Come on, Bethesda love the good, like quick announce, quick drop.
Well, that was still 5 months though, so
yeah, they've refined their art.
That was an E3 drop, and then a November, first or second week in November release. But I think,
in Todd, I trust.
He's lost my trust of late until he shows me something else. Fallout 76, anyway. But just in relation to that, I think they just need they need to have a big marketing campaign and a head start on the release date, I think, to get around that. In terms of Star Wars, I don't disagree. And to the point, because I originally played it on the PS4, and struggled with some of the fight scenes just because of that frame rate dips and stuff like that. Went back to it when it was patched into or had the PS5 patch, and found it almost an entirely different game when you were playing at a higher frame rate.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the blocks and the maneuvers and stuff that you had to do in that just found it a lot easier. So the fact that if that's what's causing the issue, that they're just sort of tweaking and polishing, I'm all for it. And we're only looking at 6-week delay, so it's not the end of the world. It's not like Skull and Bones where they're saying, "Oh yeah, it's coming. Oh, hang on, no, I don't know when it's coming."
I'll be Skull and Bones before we see that game, I reckon. All right, fellas, I suggest it's time to move on. Unky, story 4. Let me hit a button now. We almost need to dial up Ace. Shout out to Ace for filling in the last couple of weeks, mate. Good stuff. But what's happening in the old Call of Duty Warzone land, mate?
This one was for Ace as well. I probably wouldn't have put it in there if he hadn't been on the last 2 shows, but I felt like I needed to put some Call of Duty stuff in there. So this is what we got. Here's the first look at the new Warzone 2 resurgence map at G.E.A Island. So first images and details released ahead of the map's launch in Season 2. And I think this was a couple of days ago. I think as of either today or yesterday, there was actually a trailer for Season 2 as well that just dropped. So I've kind of fallen off Call of Duty just because a lot of other single-player games and stuff to play at the moment, so I haven't really been jumping back into the multi there. And it's
maybe too many good TV shows.
There's that too, and Ace kept calling me shit, so maybe I just believe that now, and I don't want to. It's ruined my, my courage to go back onto the battlefield. So especially after he, pans out bully all the time. So if I just don't play the game, he can't pan me out. So this story's for you, and that's about it. Unless Bully's got something else to say on it, because I know he's been dipping the toe back into Call of Duty every now and again.
Oh, I'm the same. I've been put off after I've been slapped left, right, and centre by Ace. Although I did notice Dr. Sponk come out in my defence last week and was given Ace the old slap around as well. So
beautiful work.
Probably not much more to say on this one, other than it's just an expected thing. I think with Call of Duty and then Warzone, obviously it's a free-to-play game, so they've got to keep pumping out the content to keep people involved and spending the hard-earned on the Battle Pass.
Now, quick scanning for me, Bully, because this one's for you, mate. Question without notice. Have they announced what the next mini-map that you and I are going to bloody master, and not me, but you will rack up, 70 kills in a round? Do we have any news on what's next in that front?
I haven't seen any. I'll do a quick bit of a search while we move on to the next one.
Very good. As you say, moving on. Speaking of moving on, Epic's moving on. What's happened to Rumbleverse, Unky?
Oh, I know. Unfortunately, it seems like any Battle Royale game that's not Fortnite or Call of Duty these days just can't stick around. So this game's been out, 6 months? and it looks like it's already getting the arse, which is unfortunate. So I think it will go offline Tuesday, February 28th. I think everyone's getting the Battle Pass free. All the items unlocked for everyone. Anyone that spent money on it can get refunds and stuff. So it's the right thing to do. I think they've come out and said that it may not be the last time we see it. So obviously, whatever's going on at the studio at the moment, they can't fund the game to keep going in its current form, which is unfortunate because from all accounts, this game is actually a lot of fun and quite different in the Battle Royale sphere. So I never jumped into it. I think it was Game Pass. I could be wrong. Troy's nodding, so it could be
no,
yes.
I thought it was a free to play. I thought it was out the gate
you're
free
right.
to play.
No, you're right. Free to play. So you're always going to have some issues sometime with free to play stuff. That if people don't jump on the microtransactions and stuff, which Fortnite's got it right. They've got all the money in the world to throw licensed stuff at us, and I was silly enough that before DeadSpace came out, I definitely went in there and bought the Isaac skin and his gun for the game just because I wanted to run out as Isaac. So that kind of stuff I'll spend money on in the game. A lot of people will do the same thing, but something like Rumbleverse, if it's not hitting those licensed stuff, it's going to be very hard to sort of get money out of people unless they're really enjoying your game. But I dare say a lot of people that are playing something like Rumbleverse are probably playing Fortnite and putting their money into that as well. So I can understand why they have to sort of shut up shop for now, and I hope they can come back because it's always sad to see these developers work so hard on a game for only the last 6 months. So
I think the writing was on the wall on this one. My question to you, Billy, do you think this has put a bit of cold water down crying Jim Ryan's back with his respect to his, what have they got, 12 live service games in development? Is this a little warning shot? Maybe don't put all your eggs in the live service basket?
Well, I hope so, but I think this is a problem, and we've seen it probably over the last decade almost. We had, companies just chasing a trend that's already exists and already has a decent market for. So you look back at PUBG that then bled into Fortnite, and how many games have tried to replicate Fortnite, and whether it's either the gameplay or even just the art style. And then over the last 12 months, we've seen the brawler type games of obviously we've got the king of the pack being
Scooby-Doo
Smash
one.
Bros. Well, Smash Bros. But then, since then we've seen the multiverses, which was the Warner Brothers take on it. We've had
That one is the one that jumps to mind as the one I've seen the most headlines about, raking in the big dollars.
Yeah, I think that was sitting number 2 or 3 behind Fortnite in terms of live.
Oh, sorry,
games,
yeah, specifically for brawlers. I mean, I think it's the top of the brawler pile.
Oh, and that'd make sense then. If it's in terms of live service games, it's sitting just behind Fortnite. That'd make sense that it's top of the brawler games. And then we saw the Nickelodeon version of it, and we've seen this one. I think where they're probably lacking with this is that they don't have the relatable characters. So obviously Smash Bros has got the Nintendo stuff. Multiverse has got WB, licensed characters,
Rocky?
Batman, Shaggy, those types. And that gives you almost an entryway into it. If you just spit out a bunch of random characters, and it doesn't matter really how well designed they are, if you don't have a link into it to start with and a little bit of interest, why would you go across to that when there's other ones that you can play that? And having never played this, but I know I'd sunk a fair bit of time into multiverses, and that actually plays quite well. So
yeah,
I don't know how you're going to compete, and that's always the issue with the live service games. Is it, as I said, you get one hit and everyone tries to replicate it, and that's going to be the issue with Sony. Is they're putting all their eggs in one basket, but are they chasing the trends, or are they putting a line in the sand and saying, no, we're going to set the trends, and this is what we're looking at going forward? I guess time will tell, but hopefully it puts a bit of a dent in old Jimmy's thought process, and he can just stick to what PlayStation does best, and that's
massive single player epic stories.
100%. That's for the most part. That's where their bread and butter is, and why they're deviating so far from that, I don't know. Well, I do know. Jimmy wants to line his pockets.
Of course he does. Hopefully the sales off The Last of Us and the TV show tie-in are where they lean more that way. Give us more movie tie-ins to single-player games or TV shows. I think that's where Jimmy should be aiming, not the old bloody live service market. Unky, any final thoughts before we bounce on?
No, let's move on.
All right, then. Speaking of Sony, what's going on here? Crying Jim Ryan strikes again. Tell me things.
Sony confirms it will remove the PS Plus collection library in May. PlayStation Plus collection will soon cease to exist, Sony Interactive Entertainment has announced. But so those who redeem the 19 PS4 games will still be able to access them as long as they remain subscribers. So I'm actually surprised it's lasted as long as it did. I think the reason it was there was because a lot of PS5 owners didn't have much to play at the start, so this was a good way to sort of onboard them with a bunch of the best PS4 games. And I think the only reason it did last, as long as it did, was probably because it was so hard to get PS5s. But and now they've just announced that PS5s are easier to get. It's like, yeah, let's rip that away from them. So bit of a strange move, I would have thought. Just now that you can actually get them, that these games are there. I mean, admittedly, we've probably all got these games or played these games before, but anyone buying a new PlayStation 5 that hasn't played these games, they're going to miss out a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of these games sort of make their way to the other part of the service, which is what everyone's paying premium for. So I don't think we're going to miss out too much.
No, I think we've got the next 10 months of the poverty tiers free games just announced right here on screen. Next 10 months coming at you, all those games. Bully, any thoughts on this one?
No, I agree with Unky. I'm surprised it lasts this long, and I think there's quite a few of those ones anyway that have been folded into one of those 3 tiered services. If they haven't been given away as their free monthly games, there's certainly some that have been rolled in anyway. So it's not like you're completely losing it. And the reality is, if anyone's got a PlayStation, you can jump onto it, redeem them. You don't have to download them, and then they're in your library. So yeah, it's always something. Even with those monthly releases, I don't play a lot of those, but I just jump in and download them anyway, because if you decide in 6, 12 months, 2 years down the track that you want to play it, it's there. You can just re-download it. So I'll just be jumping on and doing that.
Beautiful. All right, then. Speaking of jumping on, let's do just that to the final story this evening. Anki, what's going on? Resident Evil 4 details?
Yeah, this is the one I spoke about earlier. This one is for Tagaro. So, new Resi 4 remake details revealed: knife combat, side quests, Ashley sections, and more. The remake will remove most QTEs and include a new crossbow weapon magazine feature. So I had a quick read of this article. It seems like they're doing a whole bunch of new stuff with this game, which I didn't actually expect. So apparently, I think in the Resi 4, you used to just have a knife you could use whenever you want, but apparently knives degrade now and can be upgraded through the merchant and one new size, which I'm not sure about that. I think it's for balancing issues with the game. I think Ashley's apparently supposed to be rather like she's going to be less useless this time, and I think a lot of players would just a lot of players would leave her in chest and clear out an area and then come back for her later. But apparently she'll follow you more closely now. You can set her to go near or far. So it's good to see that hopefully some more AI work going into Ashley this time round. But no, I'm excited for Resi 4 and a lot of the stuff in this thing. I mean, I could read the whole article, but I'll just point you to go to Video Games Chronicles, VGC, which is where I get most of our news from these days. They seem to be the best source for news and current events in video gaming. So feel free to hit up the article there if you want to find out more on Resi 4. But I'm so excited for this game. It's especially after coming off playing Callisto, Last of Us, and Dead Space. We're primed for some Resi Evil 4 action. So I'm not sure if you guys read the article and checked out some of the stuff in there.
Well, I just want to ask you off the top here, just looking at the still here, not the headline, but the still on screen, is that possibly an alternate ending to episode 3 of The Last of Us if he didn't commit suicide and he came back as a clicker? Tell me that doesn't look like Bill's partner in zombie form.
It kind of does.
Sorry, Billy, your thoughts on this one?
Oh, I think they were banning about an alternate ending as well, or a different ending depending on how you sort of play things out. So that's, all those sort of things mixed in together just makes it a bit more interesting for fans of the original one. Obviously released almost 20 years ago. We've had some re-resed versions, I guess you'd call them, for the PS4 a couple of years ago. And just, I guess it's the same when you talk about the Last of Us TV show. They're just mixing it up. They're throwing some extra things in there for you. So fans of the original, if you didn't have enough of a temptation to get back into it, by the fact that they're throwing that stuff in there, I think helps. My only thing is, and that Unky touched on it, is the degradation of weapon, how that plays out. I don't want to see anything along the lines of, your Breath of the Wild style, two hits with a knife and it's gone. But I guess we'll just see how it plays out. I'd see more of that as an annoyance in a game like this rather than anything else, I guess.
Yeah, and just for Tagaro, I think for the purist, I know he likes his old school games. So there will be 6 different control schemes as well. And one that's included is based on the original 2005 layout for players who want a more faithful recreation of Resi 4, which I can't see myself doing that. If I've got a brand new way to play a game and with new mechanics, I'm definitely doing that 100%. But if you do like your old style gameplay, then you can do that. It's got crafting like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 now, and now apparently enemies you got to watch for them to convulse on the ground now and do a ground maneuver to make sure they're down for good this time. So, and I think Ashley's got a similar thing where Ashley won't just immediately die now. If she gets caught by a zombie, she'll go into a down state, and you've got a chance to go over and revive her before they kill her. So, a few annoyances from the original game that they're just sort of tweaking out for this one. So, but again, I'm very excited for this. I know Tagaro, I think he's told me that he's not going to buy any game until this game comes out. So he's putting all his eggs in one basket at the moment, but it's not a bad basket to have in, I don't reckon.
Any word on PSVR 2 support yet? First person?
No news. I don't think they'll do it. They haven't done it for Resi 2 or Resi 3, so I can't see them doing it for Resi 4. I think they'll stick with the more recent Resident Evil games, like your Village and stuff for that. I think so. The sequel of that will probably get some VR support, I imagine. I think they'll make a big song and dance about it for VR 2. It needs something to play on it. So.
Tagaro is in the chat. He's saying that, he's hopeless. He'll go with the old school controls. So
that's why he's probably got the old man hands like Troy as well. So
my only question though is if you've got the down state where Ashley sort of falls to the ground and you've got the chance to revive her, have you also got the chance to walk over and put the knife in and walk away?
Oh, brutal.
I thought you were going to say you got a chance to walk around, look up her skirt like most people did when she was on that ladder, and she even calls you out on it if you do.
No, she's annoying as all get out. I just want to plunge a knife into her and
oh, She's no Carmen Sandiego, eh, Bully?
Sorry, Bully, just to check in, mate. Is your pre-order for the PSVR 2 still in place, or have you cancelled it?
No, still in place.
All right, and those divorce
I think
papers on their way?
Well, I think it's not a news story. It's not a news story this week, but I think they've downcast their sales from 2 million to 1 million. So
They have.
I'm one of the few suckers that's jumped into it. But from all reports, and I've seen some people go hands on with it, it's looking pretty good. So I'm happy to stick with the pre-order.
I'll tell you again, Sony, include backwards compatibility, you muppets. You'll sell them all. All right, then, wrapping it up this week, as we always do, Unky Dunky, what are the new releases thanks to Game Informer's excellent list?
This week we have Power Wash Simulator, one of the games of last year, coming to PlayStation 5, PS4, and Switch on January 30. I believe it's not in here, but it's coming with some Final Fantasy VII DLC, free DLC, I believe. By DLC, I mean you get to wash one of their motorbikes, but what a game. What a game that was. Then we have Trek to Yomi's coming to Switch, 6.75 from Game Informer, January 30.
Any word on a PlayStation release of that one?
No word on PlayStation because we got
Crazy.
it on the Xbox Game Pass, but just on the Switch for now. Then we've spoken.
That's not the score they gave it, 6.75. That's the frame rate on the Switch that it runs.
Solid. Unlike their frame rate. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, as we spoke about tonight, January 31, Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One on Game Pass as well. Season 11 to the Future, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, PC was out on January 31. An interesting game, cool art style where you go around and take pictures and stuff and put notes in your notebook. Not for me, but will be for someone else. Again, Troy spoke about this one tonight. SpongeBobSquarePants, Cosmic Shake, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch and PC will also work on your current gens. 7 from Game Informer.
7? That is offensive to me. This is an easy 8.5, and I think you could argue it up to a 9. This is an outrageously low score.
I won't tell you IGN gave it a 5.
IGN can go fucking jump.
IGN's been relevant for years, so we don't know.
They have. Then we have Valiant Hearts, which has been out for ages, but coming to Android and iOS. What a great game that was. It's one of Ubisoft's, one of the good things they've done. We Were Here Forever. Don't know much about this one. PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One. Out January 31, so that is already out. We have Football Manager 2023, PS5, February 1. Chef Life, a restaurant simulator, PlayStation 5, Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox, Switch, PC, February 2. Deliver Us Mars is on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, PS4, Xbox One, PC on February 2. Life is Strange 2 comes to Switch, February 2, 8.5, slightly better frame rate for the Switch there. We've got Tales, The Backbone Preludes, PC, February 2, 2023. And The Pathless is coming to Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One and Switch, February 2, which is also today. So that was one of the launch titles on the PS5, and quite a cool little game, if you ask me. Got an 8 from Game Informer. So they're all your games that have either come out this week, or actually, no, that's all the games. They're all out. They're all out now. So if you want them, go get them.
Indeed. Elon Musk, deliver us Mars already, would you? Come on. All right. Now, if I have a rundown handy, look out. It's everyone's favourite segment, the Standoff.
Who will fight?
Unky Dunky, what are the constraints? Who will fight?
Oh, we spoke about Goldeneye tonight and how much we're loving it. Love the multiplayer, but with that launching on Xbox, we're going to ask, what was the next best multiplayer experience on the Nintendo 64? Now, we can talk about these games more in a general sense if you like, because I know you guys apparently haven't played a lot of multiplayer N64 games. It was only couch co-op back in the day. We didn't have online services for these games, so it was all about sitting close to your mates and eating chips and getting your controllers covered in Cheetos. So which of these was the best experience we had? Standoff number 1 to contend with Goldeneye is Wave Race.
Everyone's favourite Wave Race. Best wave physics since...
To date. It hasn't been beaten.
Well, no, I was going to say the prelude to it, though, was, of course, California. What is it? California Games. I love that surfing game. Sorry. These by far the better ones. Wave Race. Sorry, Unky. Keep going.
No, that's right. Just pulling up some of these trailers during the week to watch, he's just brought back so many memories of the sound effects. I loved Wave Race, and again, it was one of those ones I had so much fun with. I did everything in this game and unlocked the ability to ride a dolphin, as you can see there. But the multiplayer was so much fun as well. I think it was, I'm not sure if it was launch, it was close to launch. This game came out along with like your Mario Karts and stuff like that. But I had so much fun in this game just with those wave mechanics and, you know, the way you'd race up ramps and go through rings and the way the jet ski handle sort of felt realistic for its time. And it probably feels a bit clunky now, but even just watching the screen now, it's just getting me excited. I kind of just want to, we haven't seen a lot of jet ski racing games. Maybe they didn't do so well back in the day, but I mean, Wave Race is probably one of the best selling jet ski racing games probably out there. And
GTA 5 Online?
True. GTA 5 did have some good jet skiing stuff. But even I watch this now, and that actually still looks fun. I'd go back and play this now. Like, I think you can get it on the Switch now. I think it is available.
Oh, yeah, through that. What's the online? What do they call that service?
Nintendo Online.
Bingo.
Oh, creative. Just call it like we sees it.
See it and say it.
See it and say it. But no, this was a lot of fun back in the day, and it did for me do the thing that Mario Kart and all those other multiplayer games did. I just had so much fun with it, just couldn't put it down.
Nice one. I love it. No particular thoughts from me on this one. Bully, jump in if you have, mate.
Oh, I loved it as well. It was due to be a launch game, but I think it ended up coming out a couple of months later. But that was one of the selling points of it. Was you spoke about the waves. I've always found the water mechanics were the big selling point, and that was what sort of drew you into it. I don't think you'd ever really seen anything in a 3D space like it when the N64 released. But I don't. This is one that I put a hell of a lot of time into. It was I sort of found it was once you'd sort of gone through a couple of levels and worked it out, that was sort of enough for me. And there was other stuff to play around that same time as well with Mario 64 that you'd end up sinking probably most of my time into it at the 64's launch.
Fair enough. Entrant number 2 this week, Unky?
Entrant number 2 is Mario Party. Now, this game is not a game I actually ever owned, but my mate had it, and every time we would go around to his house, which was most weekends after school, and spend a couple of nights there sleeping on our mattresses in the lounge room and stuff, and we would crouch around the TV and absolutely destroy a Nintendo 64 joysticks playing this game because you'd be doing these ones where you just rub the crap out of the controller. I think everyone had calluses from that, and I was a bit worried playing the new Mario Party on the Switch. Whereas that all my Switch controls are going to get ruined, but it hasn't been the case. So whether that's they've increased the style of game you're playing, or it's just the controllers are better these days. But there was nothing worse than you picking up the shit controller at your mate's house because they've played too much Mario Party and the joystick's just a flaccid little stick compared to everyone else. So no, it's one of those. I remember having so much fun playing this, and it was just as Mario Party still is today, infuriating. Be frustrated when it comes to people that seem to get all the luck all the time when they're playing these games, and always seem to land on the red dots, or you're losing things, or Bowser takes all your coins, and everyone seems to get the extra stars but me. But no, it's I don't know whether you call it fun, but it was more the experience you had with all the mates around and just the laughs you had playing this game. I'm not sure if you guys play much of it, but yeah, back in the day, it was all about that experience for me.
Old school, big Mario Party fan. I absolutely loved it, but no additional thoughts. But yes, I was a huge fan of it. Bully, any Mario Party action?
Loved it as well. It was one of those things that you could be sitting on the couch with your mates, and exactly what you spoke about, Unky, is that someone else would get the rub of the green or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you'd have the chips flying at your face, and the punches coming over from the back row and all the rest of it because you got the luck on that one. But yeah, really enjoyed it. But I don't know how many controllers I went through.
Oh.
Out of curiosity, Bully, how many Nintendo 64 controllers are in your museum?
I think I've got 6 or 7, but they're ones I've bought since the original heyday of the 64. Because I think it's funny when you pick some of them up that you can tell that they've been thrashed with Mario Party because they're as limp as a wet biscuit when you try and do anything with them.
Perfect. All right, entrant number 3, one of my all-time favorites, Mario Kart.
It's hard to go past Mario Kart. What a time we had with Mario Kart, and it's just, they haven't made one for like 500 years now because we just stick with Mario Kart 8. But Mario Kart 64.
That's Mario Kart Infinite, mate.
Infinite, yes. Just turn the 8 sideways now because that's all it is. But no, Mario Kart 64. This was one of those big games for Nintendo 64, and I played the multiplayer just as much as I played the single player. I can't remember a time I didn't play 4-player in this thing. We always had mates around. Our house was the place to go to play Mario Kart and Goldeneye. This is where I honed my skills in Mario Kart. To this day, these skills still hold me true today in current Mario Kart because the mechanics haven't changed a lot. The old, getting that E-slide going and, working out those tactics of like sitting at the front of the pack for pretty much the whole race. If someone throws out a blue turtle, just slow down, let someone take first spot, they can hit the blue turtle, you go ahead. There was always games within games playing this thing, and this caused just as much fights as it caused laughter as well. So I love this. And then I almost totally forgot about that. They actually had the battle mode as well, and the donut level where you would all go around and you could like try and knock people into the lava in the middle and stuff. So not only did it have a great racing mode, but I thought the battle mode in this for a kart racing game, which we don't really see a lot of these days, was just a great experience.
This was my hands down number one most multiplayer game next to GoldenEye. Now, I don't believe there was ever a game clock on this, so this is pure speculation from me, but I think I would put this in the over 200-hour category for me playing multiplayer on the old Mario Kart. Oh, me and it go back a long way. Many an old man hand could be attributed to some of my time with Mario Kart 64. How about you, Bully?
Oh, same. Absolutely loved it. And it's funny because the kids have actually, when they've jumped on YouTube a couple of times and just in their random searches and stuff, the young fella a couple of weeks ago pulled up a video where you could sort of start clipping through some of the walls and do lap times that were under 5 seconds on that one we're showing there. So there's still interest there. And just looking back, I'm the same. I absolutely loved it. It was the first, Mario Kart on the SNES was good, but this just took it to another level with a 3D realm, and absolutely amazing game.
Fantastic. Number 4, does it hold up, Unky?
Oh, number 4 does Diddy Kong Racing. So this was another one that everyone expected to flop, just not being Mario Kart. But I had just as much fun with Diddy Kong, I reckon, as I had with Mario Kart, because not only did you have karts to race in, you could race in hovercrafts and aeroplanes as well. And I thought that was a nice little sort of change of mechanic. And not only did they have the multiplayer stuff that was really fun, I believe you could play the campaign in co-op as well, which was something, again, that was quite different. And the campaign worked differently to just races like you had in Mario Kart. You had like an overworld that you had to sort of unlock stuff. You could find hidden things throughout the world, and you had to sort of unlock different doors and have boss fights, which are races. So I absolutely loved this game, and for me, it was like, oh my god, Mario Kart only gave me karts, and now we've got airplanes and jet skis. This is incredible. Obviously, looking back, you go, oh, Mario Kart's got the lineage and it's kept going, but this was if something's going to copy it and be as good as it, this was very, very close.
I have never gone hands-on with this at all. I couldn't get over Mario Kart. If there was any kart racing for me, it was Mario Kart. So I've never played one round of this game. What about you, Bully?
Absolutely loved it. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that I prefer this one over.
I reckon it's got more to it. Yeah,
Mario Kart, for that simple reason that you said.
Blasphemy.
Well, it still had great multiplayer racing, but it had also when you were by yourself and your mates weren't around, it also had that fantastic single player campaign, and it was a proper campaign that was put into it that we've never seen from a Mario Kart game, other than just doing the different cups and the races and stuff, and having the overworld or the open area that you could sort of explore as well. Just gave it something over and above Mario Kart, in my opinion.
Fair enough, mate. As I said, I've never gone hands-on, so disregard any negative comments from me. I am talking from complete ignorance, believe it or not. All right, then, number 5, another one I am completely ignorant on. As we discussed recently, I am a wrestling noob. Really, only WWE 2K22, first wrestling game I've ever put any time into. So, Unky, give us details, please.
Well, the reason that game's so good is because it does remind me of the old WCW vs NWO Revenge. I think it was a WWF one that came out in 2000. I think this was 1999, this one. But again, this one takes back. We had so much fun in this. We had all my mates around. We'd pick your wrestlers, play 4-play, you do your Royal Rumbles and stuff like that. Simple controls, but so much fun. I would have put as much hours into this as I put into Mario Kart, I reckon. I absolutely adored this game. And that was back when I sort of was into wrestling. I wasn't massive into wrestling, but I was definitely more into wrestling than I am now. I sort of knew who the wrestlers were and watched a bit here and there. I had a lot of mates that really liked wrestling. So we used to just love sitting down with, this Coke and a bag of chips and just getting rowdy. And then usually turn into, laying a whole bunch of mattresses on the rumpus room downstairs and having our own little bouts. So, no, a lot of fun. Like this game takes me way back, and I had so much time in this game and so much fun with it.
Nice one. I like to see
Rowdy as
you've.
Roddy Piper?
Sorry, Billy, go again, mate.
Did you? I was just saying, Unky got rowdy. I said, did you get as rowdy as Roddy Piper?
Oh, I probably did.
What are your thoughts on this, Bully? Did you go hands-on back in the day?
I didn't, and this is probably that sort of turn where they went from the original WWF, and I know we've spoken about it when we talk about the newer wrestling games, but this is where they went to, splitting up the leagues and all that sort of stuff, and that's where I really lost my interest with wrestling at that stage. So I didn't really put a lot into it back in the original release time.
Fair enough. That'll bring us on to number 6 this week. Oh, who doesn't love himself some Mario Tennis, Hunky?
Mario Tennis. I remember wanting this game so badly because I think the Australian Open was on then, and that's when I actually really enjoyed watching the tennis as well. Fallen off it a little bit now, but no, I just wanted to get this game because the Australian Open was on. I love tennis, so never actually got the game myself, and then, like, to this day, don't speak to my parents anymore because of it. So I was 5. I don't really want to talk about it, but no, they did me dirty. I asked for it for birthday, and I didn't get it. So, but no, I did find other means to play it with friends and stuff that did have this game, and just such a great game. It's unfortunate that the Switch version of Mario Tennis wasn't anywhere near as good as this version of the game. So I'm not sure if you can get this on the Nintendo Online service or not, but it'd be worth jumping into this one again because I had so much fun with this. It's tennis, but it's got all your sort of Mario trappings and stuff as well, and special abilities and stuff that makes this game so much fun to play. But no, I had a lot of fun with at my friend's house with this one.
Nice one. Myself, I rented this for one weekend, so I had a maybe 2 days play of the old Mario Tennis. It was fine, but for me, I still preferred the NES version of tennis. I know it's even more basic, but oh man, I pumped some hours into that one too. How about you, Billy? Did you ever go hands-on with this Mario Tennis, Nintendo 64 style?
I did, but I'm probably the same as you. I never owned it. It was just a matter of if it was available at the local video store at the time, you'd jump into it. But I had a lot of fun with it. It was just pretty simple. Like you said, it's a bit more complex than the old NES tennis, but the reality is it's a pretty simple game. And I don't think they've actually replicated it. We saw the Switch version of Mario Tennis come out probably what we're talking about 3 or 4 years ago, and that was pretty average for mine, and doesn't hold a candle to this that was released, some 20 years earlier.
Yep, fair call. I just want now watching this. I just want to play. What was it? Championship Tennis they released last year. Jeez, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get back to it. Number 7 this week. Sorry, I'll try and keep on point. Perfect Dark, Nintendo 64. Hello, GoldenEye clone.
Yeah, well, it's not a close spiritual success, you might want to call it. Still made by Rare, so they didn't make another Bond game, but they did make Perfect Dark. Arguably, some people say this was better than GoldenEye. The single-player
Some
game
people
is
are wrong.
certainly a great experience, but no, the multiplayer was just as fun, if not as iconic. I think more people obviously talk about GoldenEye multiplayer than they do this because GoldenEye was revolutionary for its time, and this sort of reiterated on that. I mean, you have a laptop gun which you could throw down the laptop and it would shoot at people. So I think you had your sort of guns that you could see through walls and infrared and all that kind of stuff. So I had a lot more mechanics to play with than GoldenEye did, but maybe that was to its detriment for some people that there was too much there and there was not enough like GoldenEye. But even looking at this now, that just looks like GoldenEye to me. But very similar mechanics. I don't remember playing this one as much as GoldenEye. Did dabble. I don't think my friends and I had massive nights like we did when we did GoldenEye. But that's not to say it wasn't a fantastic game. It's as I said, a lot of people do prefer this with its dual wielding and stuff like that as well. Just for myself, definitely didn't play this as much as GoldenEye.
No, it doesn't hold a candle to GoldenEye, though. I did play through the single player campaign and loved it, but no, I don't even think I ever went hands on with the multiplayer of Perfect Dark. I certainly loved and finished the single player campaign, but no, GoldenEye for me every day of the week. How about you, Willie?
Yeah, I'm probably the same. I really enjoyed the single player aspect, but I always sort of found if you're going to jump into this style of game on the 64, that you'd always revert back to GoldenEye. I think, even though. As Unky said, they're probably pretty similar games, and they look fairly similar. I think just the vibe, I guess you'd call it, of GoldenEye always struck a bigger chord for me with the multiplayer.
And I always liked everyone's Bond impersonations myself.
That was pretty good.
Thanks. All right, number 8.
Number 8, we have in Australia, it was called Lilac Wars. Everywhere else, it was called Star Fox. No, this again, I again love this game. It was one of the first games I think came with a rumble pack for your controller as well, so there was that. But no, this is I think one of the first games where you actually felt like you were playing a Star Wars dogfighting game, but an actual good one. Like you were in a 3D space. You could do the awesome you can see on the screen now. Awesome like the loop-de-loops you can do to come back to go after people. It had a really good combat system. Even going back and playing it today, it's actually pretty good and holds up pretty well. I can't really speak for the multiplayer. I've only played the single player. But yeah, I love this game. Like we used to love dogfighting. I was a massive Top Gun fan, so it gave me those kind of feels as well. So, a lot of fun with this game. I'm guessing none of you probably played multiplayer Blowout Wars.
Nailed it. Bully, I certainly didn't play it.
I don't think I even played the single player. I remember having the original game on the SNES and didn't think much of it then. And, when it was going to get released on the 64, it was just one of those, I've got these other things and limited money back in those days. So I don't think I've ever laid hands on it, multiplayer or single player.
Fair enough. Entrant number 9, I'm sure everyone's been hands-on with this one.
Number 9, Smash Bros. In 64. So, again, I'm not the biggest Smash Bros. Fan. I didn't play a lot of this, but it'd be rude of me not to put it on this list because I dare say it's probably a lot of people's favourite multiplayer game on the Nintendo 64, and for very good reason. Smash Bros. Has always been good. I don't think there's been a bad iteration. Some will argue there's been some that aren't so good compared to the others, but again, back on N64, I had tons of friends. This is all they played, and like they didn't own any other game. Maybe Goldeneye, but all they did was play Smash. And I think to be good at Smash, you kind of almost have to be one of those type of gamers. If you're just going to dabble in Smash, you're never going to beat your mates. So, which was me. I was always falling off the end. I could never figure out how to get myself back on. Whoever was Kirby could just see the float, the little puffy yourself back up, no matter what. But yeah, dabbled in it. Could see it for what it is. I know it's a great game, and I know a lot of people absolutely loved it. What about you, blokes?
I enjoyed it, but even when I was a kid, I was terrible at platformers. So I think I put a grand total of 20 hours into this one, and I'm not sure I ever won a match, though it was very enjoyable. Probably 20 hours. Fun. It would be my second for this list. Bully, your thoughts?
I don't think I ever actually plugged it in at home. I reckon the only hands-on I ever did was down at the local Blockbuster that had the kiosk set up with it running. And, you'd end up going in there and playing some other random kid just standing there while you're doing it. And I was sort of the same. I've replayed the newer versions recently and can get a bit more into it now. But I was sort of, as you said, with flying off the screen and didn't know how to get back, and you don't know what the move sets are and all that sort of stuff. It for me, it was just the ultimate button masher that it gave you a couple of minutes entertainment while you're waiting for your parents to pick out whatever video they were grabbing, and then you're on your way out of the video store.
Fair enough. All right, guys, that brings us to the roundup, and I think everyone knows where I'm sitting. My nomination has got to be Mario Kart 64 for obviously the runner-up to GoldenEye being the best multiplayer, but my vote this week is going to Standoff entrant number 3, Mario Kart. Unky, where are you sitting?
Hey, Bully, how about I side with you for once? Are you leading to Mario Kart, or are we going to get Troy with Diddy?
Oh, so I was sitting on the fence with Diddy Kong or Diddy Kong. For me, it's just a better game. It's not as iconic. It's not as iconic.
It's not. And we're not. But that's the thing. We're not asking which is the most iconic game, are we? That wasn't the question. What was the question?
What's the best multiplayer?
What's the best multiplayer game experience you've had that wasn't GoldenEye?
I would say this is it's Mario Kart but better. That's the easiest way to put it.
And Troy's never played it, so he can't really speak to it. Troy, Diddy Kong, like the mechanics are almost identical. It's just the maps are great, the racing's great, the aeroplane mechanics are like it does a lot of things that Mario Kart doesn't do. Mario Kart keeps it pretty safe and close to its chest. This thing tries different things, and it's got that campaign. I'm going to go with Bully. Bully's happy to go with Diddy Kong. We might get him over the line for a standoff.
Fair enough. To Bully's earlier point, I was financially constrained back in the day. So being such a big Mario Kart fan, I never saw the value in shelling out money for, in my thoughts, a clone. However, I can see due to not unanimous consent, but majority vote this evening. Diddy Kong, a winner is you for this week's Standoff. Congratulations. The prize is inbound. There's a prize. I have no idea. That will do it for the Standoff this week. Thank you for playing. Bully, final segment, audience integration. What has been happening in that there YouTube chat, my friend?
Oh, look, I've tried to cover off most of it. Thanks again for Tigaro again and his generous donation there. He's saying that it probably needs to go to Unky's headset so he can get that working, but also says that it was supposed to be split 3 ways. You're a greedy man. Apart from that, I think I've sort of covered everything else. Sean Games has popped in the chat for a little bit there as well. We had MIR12 has jumped in there. And Tigaro saying that just one to round out is that when he was doing his multiplayer experiences on the N64, it wasn't chips that were getting thrown around. He could barely see the screen from the smoke. So take that how you will.
He's also, I'm going to jump in there and say, he's just also said he wants to see us guys with a pasty prefer roll, croissant, or vanilla slice on next week's show. Pastries would be pasties would be an ideal. Might be a good catalyst to start in time. Now, this is a sort of we have pasty Thursdays, or PTs we call it at work. So we've been missing out on PTs recently. So I think that's a nod to that. So all right, to go. I'll see what I can do. I don't know about a pasty at 8 o'clock at night, straight after dinner, but maybe I can hold off dinner. And
is he saying pasty or pasties, like the things?
No, I think he means pasties. I don't know. He might need to clarify. It depends how much smoke's in that room at the moment.
Beautiful work. Thank you very much for participating in that there YouTube chat. Comments always welcome. Of course, if you're listening to this on the podcast services, as we're now podcast as well, after the fact, maybe you want to swing by to one of these live Thursday nights and get involved in that there YouTube chat. You'd be more than welcome. But if you are listening on the podcast services, please rate us in the service, whichever it is, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, and I'm missing one, iTunes, did I already say that? They all have, rate us, star us, review us, whatever. Please, if you can't be in the land of YouTube participating there, please participate in your podcast service of choice, wherever you happen to be listening to us. Okie dokie, sir. Thank you for a fantastic week, my friend. Great work in the rundown, as always, my friend.
Mate, my pleasure. Good to have all us boys back in the chairs.
Oh, yes. It's great when we all get back in together. Of course, Bully, mate, a big shout out to you. Thank you very much. Keep the Let's installs coming. Keep those Let's plays coming. Thank you for joining in tonight, mate.
Thank you. And just as well, jump onto Twitter at Geek Aloud as well. So you get links to all our uploads onto YouTube, and you'll get some topical news items sort of pass through with a couple of comments there. And just want to round us out there, Tigaro's telling me it is pasty, you muppet.
Perfect. And the final teaser, again, I'll just remind everyone, the Hogwarts Legacy install is upcoming this week, and you're not going to want to miss it. I've got quite the surprise in store for the viewers. But for now, we're off duty. Unky Dunky, welcome back. Tell us, what can you do with the channel?
Like it, subscribe it, you'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something. Oh, look out!
You players play.
Old Uncle Donkey. Unky Donkey.